Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark.
And I'm Randy.
Today we're taking a look at Valhalla.
Valhalla is brought to you by Go On Board. It supports between 2 and 6 players, ages 13 and up, and each game takes between 30 minutes and 60 minutes to play.
Great. Let's take our warriors into battle and see who can make it to Valhalla. The world is coming to an end, and for eons the seers have told of this day to come. Now, you, as one of Odin's descendants, are not going to sit by and just go quietly into the night. No, you will engage in battle and be one of the chosen to go to Valhalla. To set up the game, you'll roll out the playmat. This playmat is where you'll hold the battle tactic cards and the warrior cards. And then you'll grab a point value card. And this point value card is different based on the number of players in the game, and will show you how the scores will be calculated at the end of the game. And then each player will receive a player board. This board is where you'll hold your armies and your chieftain or your Jarl. Each player will also receive a set of shields that will go to the top of their board. And then each player will receive 3 Jarl cards. Everyone will look at their cards and pick a Jarl in secret, discarding the other 2, and then everyone will flip the cards simultaneously. All the dice are pooled and put in the middle of the table for easy access.
Next, you'll discard cards from the main deck to form a discard pile. The number of cards you discard will depend upon the number of players. This is because the size of the main deck is a timer for the game, and it will determine the length of the game. After that, you will determine who is the starting player. And the game suggests you do that by identifying the person with the longest beard.
I wonder who that is.
Now, in our circle, there's quite a few people that compete there.
That's true.
You can determine the first player in any way you'd like, especially if you're all clean-shaven. After that, you will deal cards from the top of the main deck face up onto the player mat until you have a number of warrior cards showing equal to the number of players plus 1. Any other cards that get dealt, such as battle tactic cards, get shuffled back into the main deck. Then, beginning with the last player, basically the person to the right of the first player, they get to choose one of the hero cards, one of the warrior cards, and put it directly onto their player board to form the first member of their battle party. That continues counterclockwise around the table, with each player choosing a warrior card and putting it onto their player board until the first player has a choice of only 2 warriors. He chooses that one, and the last warrior is discarded. After that, each player is given 7 cards, from which they choose 5 to form their starting hand, and the remaining 2 are discarded simultaneously. So all players discard those so that they don't see what other players have discarded and can't get a hint of their strategy.
Now, turns move really fast in this game, and everyone gets a handy reference card showing what their options are. And basically you have 2 phases on your turn. You have an A phase and a B phase, and the A phase outlines 4 different things that you can do. However, you can only do one of these. And the first option is to play a warrior card from your hand into your battle area on your player board. The second option you have is to play 2 warriors as long as their weapon icons don't exceed 3. The third option you have is to attack anybody at the table. And this is kind of the heart of what you want to do in the game, so you can move your particular warriors to Valhalla. And then your fourth option is to draw 2 cards and keep one and discard the other. Now, that would conclude your A phase picking one of those, and then you go to the B phase and you're going to draw 2 cards again and discard one and keep the other.
As Mark said, the third option in Phase A is to perform combat against one of the other players. These are Vikings, and this is the way you get your warriors into Valhalla.
Indeed, it is the heart of the game after
It's
all,
basically
right?
the heart of the game. This is the core of what you'll be doing most of the time. So don't expect a nice little Euro game where there's no conflict. This is what you're going to be doing a large part of the game.
Yes.
The way you perform combat, just from a high level, is each player has 6 dice that match the color of their shields. They roll these dice, they use them to activate various warriors. They might play battle tactic cards, and then also use the powers of their Jarl, and ultimately that will form an attack strength. It will calculate from all those things. After they've done that, the attacker has done that, the defending player will also have an option to do those same things. Roll dice, activate warriors, play battle tactic cards, use the abilities of their Jarl, to also come up with an attack strength. And at the end of combat, they will compare those two attack strengths and resolve the battle based upon who won that. Now, before we go on, let's talk about the characteristics of the warrior cards. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to use, instead of the Ice Giant, I'm going to use this guy. He's more basic. You'll see in the upper left, you'll see a colored symbol with a number in it. And this is the basic attack strength of that warrior. Beneath that, you'll see some square icons. And these icons represent the dice faces that you'll need to have showing in order to assign dice there and activate this warrior.
Yeah, and what's cool is you actually place those dice on the card.
Exactly. So this warrior, he's got an attack strength of 5, basic attack strength, and then you see these icons below there. There's an axe, there's a sword, and there's a shield. So I need to place dice of each of those symbols on this card in order to activate this warrior. Now he can be in my battle party but not activated, but I won't use him to calculate the attack strength. Some warriors have special abilities, and this is why I saved the Ice Giant for a second. He's got the ability that if when he's activated, and his activation involves two things. I need to put 2 dice here that have matching symbols. So if I can do that, then he's a member of the battle party, and what he does is he makes the defending player lose one of their dice. They have to discard one of these.
It's brutal, actually.
Now, the dice themselves have 6 different sides, and one of the sides, they show 6 different weapons, or a shield and 4 other weapons. But they also have this circle with an X through it, and the key thing about this
is nothing.
Which is nothing, and they cannot be used for Ice Giants. No. So you can't use 2 X's there. They have to actually
failure, basically.
Right. So the nice thing, though, is when you initially roll your dice, you're likely not to get everything you want. You can re-roll any dice you want to, but each time you do, you have to first discard one of your dice.
Yeah, which is a nice option.
It is. It is. Now, you also might have some battle tactic cards that let you re-roll dice or
get extra dice.
Get extra dice, yeah, as well as maybe adding some strength to your party,
which is pretty handy.
It very much is. And one of the battle tactic cards say when the attacker plays it, he can play it and prevent the opposing player from using the strength or power of their Jarl.
Yeah.
So after the player has done all these things, they've activated their warriors, they've re-rolled any dice as necessary, discarding as many as they need to. They will then have a total attack strength. And like I said, you will use that then against your defending player. Before we, though, close on this, there are some things that your Jarl can bring into
absolutely.
And he can be very powerful. One thing to note is that each Jarl has 2 powers. Now, you might be able to use both of those powers if you see over on the left side a little plus sign in red. Now, this Jarl here, Gorm has the ability to use one or the other. He cannot use both. Now, his power is, and to show you how this involves the attack strength, is depending upon the number of warriors I've activated, he will get a strength bonus. So I've activated only 1 warrior, and I'm getting a bonus for that. If I've activated 2, I get one strength bonus. If I've activated 3, I get 3, and if I've activated all 4, I will get a 7 strength bonus.
Wow.
So, which is really significant. Now, the other option is if I haven't re-rolled any dice while activating those 4, which would be a challenge in itself. But if I can pull that off, I actually get a little bit more of a bonus for each of those numbers. So your Jarl can come into play, and you for both the attacker and the defender. And this is really the key of combat, is you're trying to maximize your attack strength before the defending player does the same thing. Something to keep in mind, though, is since the attacker cannot play any additional battle tactic cards after the defender has rolled his dice, you are faced with maybe a little bit of a dilemma here. You might have battle tactic cards. It's like, look, I know I've got enough to defeat him, but I don't know what he's got in his hand. So do I really try to play some of these and make it massive overkill just to make certain I win, or do I save these for an attack in the future where I'm not certain of the outcome? So that's a bit of a trade-off.
Now, you as the attacker, if you win the battle by having the larger attack value, then all your warriors are gathered up that participated in the battle. They're gathered up and placed face down into Valhalla. In the bottom corner, left corner of the card, is their point value. This is what you'll use to calculate score at the end of the game.
Now, if the defender wins, and by winning, in a tie, it's always the attacker.
Yes.
The defender wins, he can put either any number of his warriors that were involved in the attack, in the skirmish, he can put those into Valhalla as well. He can put 1, he can put all, he can put 0. And you might ask, well, if these are point cards, why would you not put them all into Valhalla? Part of the reason is these are the battle party you have to defend yourself in future turns as well. So if the guy on the other side of the table just attacked me, I know Mark's going to have a chance as well. I might want to keep one of my strong guys here on Earth rather than sending him to the afterlife.
Absolutely. And it's important to note also that if you've wiped out your entire battle party in a turn and you have an empty board, then no one can actually attack you.
This is true.
So, and on that option A, on the A phase on your turn, there are the first two options to either place a warrior or to place a warrior with two warriors with 3 or less weapons. You have to do one of those.
That's another reason the defender might not want to put all of his warriors in the Valhalla. Let's say he had 3 of them here, and that was all he had in his battle party, and all of them were activated. He might not want to send all of them away because he might say, I know if I get rid of all of them and I have a blank player board, I can only do one of those 2 things. My next turn, I can't do combat. I can't draw. All I can do is a player warrior. Maybe I don't want to do that in this next turn.
Definitely some decision making there.
Definitely, yes.
Now, one more thing, when the attacker wins, they actually receive one of the shields from the defender. Now, of course, the defender, when they successfully defend, they do not receive a shield from the attacker, right? So it's only if you're attacking do you get one of those shields. And why do you need those shields? Because they score points for you at the end of the game. Then play continues much like this until either one of 2 things happens. You run out of the deck of cards, which is kind of a timer, or one player loses all their shields, and then it's Ragnarok.
Now, when the end of the game is triggered, each player has a chance to perform one more turn, and that includes the player who triggered the end of the game. Now, after that's done, it's time for Ragnarok. Ragnarok involves doing combat again, but you're really not doing combat against any particular person. Each player will have a chance to roll their dice and activate as many warriors as possible. They can also use the powers of their Jarl, and they can use their battle tactic cards. The whole goal is to activate as many warriors as you can, because in doing so, you will send them off to Valhalla. You won't be attacking any particular person. There won't be a defender. So the goal is get as many of your warriors activated and send them on to the afterlife.
Last-ditch effort to get those warriors in. Then at the end of the game, you're going to score your total points. And the points are going to be varied, again, based on this point value card that we talked about at the beginning. And it's varied how points are calculated based on the number of players. So like in a 2-player game, you're going to count your Valhalla, all your warriors that are in Valhalla. You're going to count how many shields. They all get 2 points each for every shield you acquired from your opponent. Now, in a 3-player game, it's very different. You get 0.2 points for every pair of shields that you acquired, and you get 2 points for each of the shields you held on to. So there's a lot of different variations in how points are scored based on the number of players. So that's kind of the basics of the game, really. And what's really nice is that there's already a bunch of expansions that get included in the box. And I think one of my favorites right out of the gate is the King of the Hill, because it really is King of the Hill. There's cards that you can use, but obviously using the figure is the way to go, because it definitely points out who is currently the King of the Hill, and whoever holds on to this is going to be the target for everyone else to go after. So some of the other expansions, what I like about them is that some of them mix and match really well.
Yeah.
Right?
And you've got a lot of extra cards, like the Valkyries and the Dwarves, each of them have 40 additional cards that you will add to the deck.
And the Fire Giants? Yep. And also, what is it, Thor's Assistants or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
I love those cards because they add a lot to the main deck. If you get those cards, Thor really does help out.
There's 10 cards for an expansion called Loki's Deception.
Oh, yes.
And each of you choose one of them, and you can do so consciously, or you can actually just choose one at random. And what they do is, based upon the difference in the attack values, the loser actually gets a bonus. And so it can really change the way the game is played. It might change how much you choose to buff your warriors. Because sometimes losing might be a good thing.
Indeed.
And there's also an option, another expansion that lets you play in pairs. If you have 4 players or 6 players. This is really
cool.
Yeah. So lots of options here, and they all come in the box by default.
Yep. And I think there's a bunch of other things they have planned in the stretch goals, so keep an eye on the campaign. Also, I want to take a quick minute and talk about the presentation of this game. Obviously, the artwork is beautiful, but the way the game arrived, it came in this box, and opened it up, and there's this amazing parchment piece on top with a story-driven aspect to it. And what's cool is that Sam Healy and I were comparing notes, and he got one as well, and it was different than ours. So it was really cool. And you pull this off, and then the game is wrapped in this burlap bag. They just big kudos for presentation on this one.
They've done a great job.
Yep. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, there's really a lot of variation in this game, and it might seem a little daunting at first, but what is really cool, the core of it, is that these warrior cards that you're using, unlike a lot of other battle card games, this one doesn't require you to spend weeks or months learning the cards to actually engage in a real battle with folks. This is one of those games you can really just jump into right away and get a feel for it immediately.
Yeah, for the most part, they're very visually self-explanatory.
Yep.
There are some special powers on some of these cards. There's like 4 different special powers on the warriors, but they're easy to learn. And once you've learned them, it creates a lot of strategic decisions on, well, do I try to attack with just these 2 big guys, or do I want to maximize my number of clans so I can get this bonus on a particular card?
Yeah, I really like that aspect. And I, again, like the variation and all the expansions they included. Lots of different ways to play. So, but ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support.
Definitely.
And I think that's it from us. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.